Oh. Wait, wasn't that the wrong intro? Actually, no. See, I'm actually changing how I'm doing the whole side quest thing. It's gonna be for more like new releases and stuff like that. So the videos that I'm doing right now are still going to be the standard Wayne is Boss reviews. I talked about it a little bit in my recent update video, which none of you watched, but honestly, it's fine. If you have any further questions, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Anyways, on with the show. So, The Incredible Hulk didn't exactly live up to its name. The only thing incredible about that game was the amount of my brain cells that were obliterating each other during my recording sessions. But at least we are returning to a character that did show some promise last time around. Sure, the first Iron Man game was repetitive, but they had those flight controls down pat, and with a little bit of work, the sequel could easily iron out those kinks and make a much better experience. I mean, Sega did actually have the reins on development for this one, and with the reception from the first game under its belt, it was safe to assume that they were able to build off the foundation and construct something a bit cleaner, you know, trim the fat and add some new bells and whistles. Well, the answer is yes and no. There are improvements to be found here, but just as many caveats. The first thing I want to know, though, is just how long this game is going to be, because if it's just as bad as the last game I looked at, I don't know if I can survive it being just as long, too. Oh, okay, that's not so bad. Well, I'm not gonna know what this game has in store for me until we pop it in and find out, so let's go ahead and test our luck with Iron Man 2 for the Xbox 360. And I definitely have a feeling that I'm gonna need this to get through it. Alright, so you know how I initially praised The Incredible Hulk for having a pretty fun and creative title screen? Well, I'm not really sure what they were going for here, but upon booting up the game, the player is just greeted with this nearly blank screen with Iron Man and War Machine just sort of sitting there and staring at you. There's not even any music at first, they're just looking at you like,
"Come on, do it, you little punk. Hit that start button. Make my day."
Bland title screen aside, I think there was a pretty smart decision made with the narrative for this game. So far, these titles have done their best to work in small elements from the plot of the films they're based on, all while adding in some extra elements that fans of the comics are sure to recognize, but Iron Man 2 goes for another route. From what I can tell, this story actually takes place after the plot of the movie, working off completely original material, and I think that was honestly for the best. I mean, I actually like Iron Man 2 as a movie more than most, but let's be real, there's not a whole lot of time Tony Stark actually spends in his armor during that movie, and even when he's in it, he's not really doing a whole lot of stuff that would really be fun to do in a video game.
You know, the question I get asked most often is, Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
The general plot is that AIM, or the Roxxon Corporation, okay, actually, I don't really remember which one it was, but does it really matter? Invades a Stark Archive facility and steals some weapon plans. Oh boy, what else is new? But they also make it out with something else, too, a copy of the artificial intelligence that makes up Jarvis. From there, the organization is trying to cross-engineer the software to use it to create an AI of their own that's capable of making their army one of the most terrifying forces of destruction on the planet, which is already bad enough, but to make matters worse, the AI gets corrupted and starts to develop its own personality and goals, as well as a new identity, Ultimo. What's interesting is that this actually isn't too far off from how Ultron would eventually be created in the films, and this game was released 5 years before Age of Ultron was. I mean, the villain goal isn't really super sophisticated or anything. You can basically chalk it up to Ultimo turning into a really big robot and destroying a lot of stuff, with a little revenge on Tony Stark sprinkled on top, because apparently everything has to have that. The rest of the game is Iron Man and War Machine teaming up with S.H.I.E.L.D. to take down AIM and eventually Ultimo. Along the way, they run into Black Widow, fight the Crimson Dynamo, and a really vicious robot at one point, and yeah, that's kind of it. It's really not any more complicated than that. People want to break stuff, so, you know, let's tell them to knock that off. This ain't a groundbreaking narrative or anything, but it's a comic book game, so it really doesn't need to be any more complicated than that, I guess. But it's not exactly gonna get much praise from me. Comic books are capable of telling some pretty amazing stories, and it's a big part of why these characters are still as relevant as they are today, so while this level of simplicity is acceptable, it ain't earning any brownie points, that's for sure. Well, at least the way it's all presented is a little better than it was last time. It's nothing amazing, but these character models are definitely easier on the eyes than the ones from the first game, and these sound alikes that they got to stand in for Robert Downey Jr. and Don Cheadle are pretty on point. Now, Don Cheadle does voice some of the lines for Rhodey, but any additional voice work for the character is handled by Phil Lamar, who's always going to be putting in a good job. They even got Samuel L. Jackson back to play Nick Fury, and I mean, yeah, that voice is so distinct, it would be pretty difficult to replace. Funny enough though, Black Widow shows up during a mission, and while she does look a lot like Scarlett Johansson, she definitely doesn't sound anything like her. If anything, the actress they hired sounds like she's about to fall asleep at the microphone.
You hurt?
No, but this entire facility is on full alert.
I guess that just goes to show that Scarlett Johansson can play just about everyone, except apparently herself. Stuff looks and sounds just fine, but how does it play? Well, just a few minutes into the tutorial mission, and we see that they've completely changed the flight controls. This is where the game started to lose me. The first Iron Man had some outstanding flight controls, and with the right tweaks, some better combat, and more interesting missions, it had the potential to make for one of the best feeling superhero games out there, but nah, who wants that? We'll just map ascending and descending to the face buttons of all things, and in order to fly what feels like a snail's pace, you have to double tap the left shoulder button? Man, I wish I could just meet whoever came up with this control scheme and... Well, I'm not gonna threaten physical harm to anybody, but they would not like what I had to say. I guess it's not so bad. I mean, I did get used to it, but it's a shame there was anything to get used to. They already had something that worked so well, so it just drives me insane that they had to change it like this. You know what though, I'll give them this. There's way more variety in this game. I mean, you're flying around and making things look like the 4th of July, but the moment-to-moment actions that fall under that umbrella actually take more advantage of your moveset, but there's also an added element in that you're not just playing as Iron Man in this game, but War Machine as well. Each hero is pretty similar with basic ranged attacks like War Machine's minigun or Iron Man's repulsors, but they also have a few sets of sub-weapons that they can cycle through in battle. This can range from different guns to a variety of missile projectiles that can be launched at enemies, and with a little experimentation, you find that missiles just basically make everything die faster. If an enemy decides to get up close and personal though, you have a couple of melee combos at your disposal too. I do appreciate that these actually feel pretty effective in close quarters, but they're also very basic combos, and it's gonna be a lot of you watching the same animation sort of on repeat while you use them. At the beginning of most missions, you can choose if you'd prefer to play as War Machine or the like 12 different versions of Iron Man, and holy crap, I get that Tony has more suits at his disposal to play around with, but man, Rhodey really got the short end of the stick here. Now, getting to choose a character for each mission is all well and good, but I absolutely hate everything about the interface of this menu. You can create, upgrade, and equip different forms of ammunition, weapons, and gear to slap onto your suits, but you're constantly flipping through all these horrible menus all the time to do it, and oh, this UI is just an absolute nightmare. Stuff starts to feel a bit better once you're actually out in the field though. Once I got the hang of the new flight controls and was blowing stuff up left and right, I was honestly enjoying parts of these new missions, which to be honest, I wasn't really expecting out of this game. Now don't get me wrong, there are low points. I mean, the very first mission they send you on after the tutorial is an escort mission, and oh boy, everybody loves those. Seriously, you'd expect SHIELD aircraft to be able to defend themselves a little better than this, or, you know, just fly around the enemies and avoid this conflict altogether, but here we are. The combat does start to feel pretty good though after a bit. You can unleash your weapons on troops and vehicles, slap people around with your ironclad limbs, hack enemy drones and make them fight for you, and now when you're getting bombarded with missiles, you can actually put up a small shield that deflects them back at the enemy, which usually helps take them out faster. Iron Man and War Machine also have this little power-up they can activate too, which once it's turned on, Iron Man will turn invincible for a little bit, or War Machine will just become, well, a war machine. His ammo is unlimited, his damage is maxed out, and he is just destroying everything around him. This is actually kind of a blast. Am I starting to like this game? You know, truth be told, there's nothing terribly impressive going on here, but I did get used to the flight. Blowing stuff up is fun, and I can do it in a few different ways now, and you know what? It's got some decent bosses too. They're flashy, dynamic, memorable, and require a little more thought than just floating around and firing. You gotta worry about blocking enemy attacks, knowing when to parry them, finding the best opportunities to attack and catch them off guard. This guy in particular needs to be disabled in a particular area and sealed off to be destroyed by this device, and the window is pretty short, so there's actually a decent amount of tension here, especially since this guy can absolutely demolish you if you give him the chance. Weirdly enough, I actually think this game could have been a bit longer. Like, the time I showed you from earlier makes it look like a decently sized game for what it is, but I was actually really surprised when I saw the credits rolling about 4 hours into playing it. Like, come on, what took you guys so long? It would have been great if a little more time was spent fleshing out this story. I mean, the base is here. They even kind of fixed my biggest problem with Jarvis and his lack of personality from the first game.
Kidnapping? There was nobody there to kidnap.
I shall try not to be offended, Miss Potts.
Thank you, Jarvis.
They even go as far to have this poor dude plead for Tony to never let something like this happen again. Like, having a clone of him taken and corrupted into a giant killing machine really affected him, but man, I just wanted a bit more of that.
Sir.
Yeah?
Will you promise me something?
Sure. What's up?
Never again.
Never...
The archives. My archives, sir. Could you please?
You got it.
At ease, everybody.
Maybe that's just the thing though. I had a decent enough time with what's here, but maybe this type of gameplay would have just gotten old if it went on for too long. I'm already not a fan of how much slower and clunkier flight is, and I never want to see a game handling upgrading and menus like this again, but there was something fun in the midst of all of this, and I just wish that stuff had been fleshed out a bit more. I feel conflicted. Out of the 3 MCU tie-in games I've looked at so far, this is the one I've had the best time with, but it is also really short, the user interface is absolutely atrocious, and, well, the game does get fun for a bit, but it's also not something I see myself returning to, like, maybe ever. It's better than what came before, but you're also not missing out on much if you skip this one.
Agreed?
Well, we've looked at the men of science from this universe, but I think next time we should take a look at the corner of this universe that stems from fantasy and legend. So I hope you'll join me next time as we take a look at Thor, God of Thunder. Until then, remember that my top tier patrons get to see these videos 2 days early, and you can always reach me through Twitter, Twitch, Discord, whichever you prefer, links in the description, and of course, as always, spread the word, tell your friends, and until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. See you next mission. Oh, hey there, what's a nice supportive viewer like you doing at the end of a video like this? I'm sorry, that was the dumbest joke I've ever led one of these with. Anyway, thanks again for watching, I really do appreciate it. Sorry for missing last week. Like I said last time in my update video, I am going to be switching to uploading on Tuesdays, and that's why there wasn't a video last week, is I was just kind of in that transition period there. Except for in October. Things are going to be a little different just because I'm going to be uploading mostly on Fridays and one Saturday. After that, things will be changing just a little bit again, as I'll be switching out to uploading every other week instead of every single week, just because I'm a human being. I need my rest, and I work a lot, like, outside of this, so it's, you know, it's the equivalent of working like 2 full-time jobs and then also trying to work out a bunch of other projects on top of that, and that's just not feasible. But again, I'm able to do what I do because of viewers like you, and of course, my top tier patrons, Christine Larkin and Patricia Marcoux. Love you guys so much, and thanks for your continued support. Oh, alright, okay, short end screen this time. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting to work on Thor, God of Thunder. Haven't played this one. I think outside of the Incredible Hulk, this is one of the only ones that I've just never even touched before. So, I'm not looking forward to it, but we'll see how it is. Alright, with all of that said, thank you so much for watching. I have been Wayne. Iron Man 3 is still the best Iron Man movie, and please wash your hands. Alright, peace.